Hey Void, how you doing? Fibers is still doing some catch up here, so trying to talk through a few other things. Okay, let's get this one going. AVP, Alien versus Predator. I'm always back and forth on whether it's the title's AVP, Alien versus Predator, or just Alien versus Predator, so make of it what you will. Okay, riddle me this. At the time, there were two Predator movies, both rated R. And at the time, there were four Alien movies, all rated R. How the fuck do you get a PG-13 movie out of that franchise? Okay, so Alien versus Predators. With the amount of hype going into the making of this is almost doomed to failure right at the beginning. Between having a long-running series of novels and comics, of which this takes none of from, the storyline vaguely references one of it, but that's space marine stuff, and this is set on Earth in 2004, contemporary with itself, so that doesn't really work. So there's a long-running comic, long-running novel series. There's been hit video games based on this, and so the movie had a lot to live up to, and it really doesn't. It's, I won't say it's terrible, because it's not. It's just underwhelming. And when you got two franchises as great as these two, that's a harsh blow. Okay, so the year is 2004, and aliens. Okay, more specifically, their satellites show a pyramid down in Antarctica that suddenly just appeared on thermal imaging, so they're getting a team together to go investigate. When they get there, they discover that they don't need to drill down to the temple down below. A hole is already cleanly bored through there, which wasn't there before. And as they get down there and to start examining this pyramid, which is essentially a pyramid dedicated to the predators who used it as a ritual site when they were revered as gods on Earth to hunt aliens in their manhood right. Okay, so that's got some potential, I will say. But they get caught up in the ritual. A bunch of them get turned into, get impregnated and outcast on aliens, and then it's a fight to the finish. Okay. So a couple of the predators get killed off, so it's only left with one, who teams up with the last surviving human when they realize that they both are just trying to get out of this, and they begin essentially a buddy cop movie on the way to the surface to break out before the aliens do. Okay. So they kind of get, hey, this happens every 100 years or so, and this was sitting atop a abandoned whaling thing that was mysteriously vanished 100 years ago. Okay, well, explains that. Doesn't explain why the energy beam that bored the hole down there shot through some of the buildings. Yet those buildings are shown clearly intact, so if they're using the same way of getting down there, why did I have to cut through the buildings? It's like, the problem that I have with this movie is it just seems so poorly thought through on a lot of things and implications, but I guess it's going through the motions. This was essentially written and directed by Paul W.S. Anderson of Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil fame. So, I can't say his movies are good, but they're usually entertaining. The original Resident Evil I actually did very much enjoy. Kind of started going down after that, but okay. I will say that means he also knows how to shoot a good fight scene. And the initial fight scene between the gridded alien and our lead predator Scar was good. There is some decent action sequences, but they either cut away a bit because PG-13, and even in the restored, unrated version that I watched, it still feels neutered. But the action scenes, when they're allowed to do their thing, are good. The pyramid's construction was neat to look at. I did enjoy that. And the premise could have worked, but there's too much setup in getting there, and not enough action and once they're in there. It feels that the time of the pyramid is to go by like that. So the humans get wiped out way too quick. And there's a few of them that are interesting, but the most interesting characters get wiped out right away. And the lead, she is good. Don't get me wrong. What what was the actress's name? Then Sana Lathan. Does great work in this as our lead. I did want to see more of her. I wanted to see her continuing to fight with the Predators. I would love this to have kicked off to her essentially continuing on with that. And Lance Henriksen is always great. He's good in his role, which is more of a glorified extended cameo than anything, but he's fine. But overall, the movie just keeps feeling like it's coming up just a bit short. The weaponry, which they did redesign a bit, is cool, but you don't see enough of it. This movie was close. If it had just gone a little bit more, it could have been great, but it just didn't end up being. The movie is just a little over an hour and a half on the extended version, which didn't really even add all that much back into it. So, really, if it had just taken its time to breathe, or not done so much at the beginning and let things get going a little bit more in the action. But at the same time, for the characters they do develop, I don't want to really cut down their development, so maybe just extending it a little bit could have saved this one. And again, just letting the movie be a over the top alien and Predator slugfest. And with that, it's hard to do with the PG-13. So, I'll give it a 5 MacGuffins, because really it's not terrible. The sting of this one more comes from its missed potential rather than any fault of it on its own. So, watching it on it by itself, it is fine. Things work out okay. And the effects, yeah, are, for the most part, good. They didn't rely on practical as much as they could, and it shows it works. They pretty much tried to tone down any of the cheesy CG that they could, and okay, props for that. This movie, they did try, but it felt like they just kept coming up short. So, I'll give it a 5 MacGuffins. It's still worth seeing. And that just leaves me one more in my big box of Alien vs. Predator. I mean, there's still a few other Predator and Alien movies after that, but I just have the sequel to this to at least get through that box. But I don't know when I'll get to it. That one's in a weird liminal space on its own. Alright, well, have a good night.